You opened this video, and that already made someone very happy. It's not exaggeration, it's not clickbait title, and it's not just a pretty phrase to make you stay. It's a real spiritual truth about what happens when a chosen one decides, in the middle of an ordinary day, to stop everything and listen. Jesus isn't happy only at big celebrations, at packed services, or in moments of heroic faith. He's happy when you, with everything you're carrying, with all your doubts, and with life far from perfect, choose to open space to hear his voice. And you just did exactly that. Maybe you're going through a phase where God's silence seems louder than any answer, where prayers seem to hit the ceiling and return without destination, where the healing you asked for hasn't arrived yet, and the turning point you're waiting for hasn't appeared. Maybe you carry pain with no easy name, shame making you feel unworthy to approach, or exhaustion going far beyond the physical. If any of these descriptions touched something in you now, then this video didn't arrive by accident. It arrived because Jesus wanted to meet you exactly here, exactly like this. What you'll find in this message isn't a list of things you need to do to deserve Jesus' happiness. It's an encounter with grace that already accepted you before you opened this video. It's honest conversation about silence that confuses, about the story that hasn't ended yet, about worries you can finally surrender, and about the turning point this moment represents. Stay until the end, because Jesus was happy when you opened it, and will be even happier when you make it to the end. You could have scrolled right past, and most people would have done exactly that. But you stopped, clicked, and are here now. And this apparently simple choice carries weight going far beyond what it seems at first glance. There's no coincidence when it comes to moments like this. There's a chosen one who responded to an invitation prepared specifically for them. And the fact you're here, at this specific moment in your life, is already the beginning of something that will still make a lot of sense. Stopping in a world that never stops is an act of courage disguised as a click. Most people live running from one notification to another, from one distraction to the next, without ever really pausing to hear what's being said in life's deeper layers. You did differently, and this isn't detail, it's character. It's the same quality separating those who merely hear about transformation from those who actually experience it. Jesus is near those who stop to hear him, and this nearness doesn't depend on you being at your best moment, with firmest faith, or with everything resolved. It simply depends on you being present, available, and with open heart for what's coming. And what's coming in this message was prepared with care, becoming more evident as you advance, starting with something you maybe didn't expect to hear right away. There's an image I want you to carry with you after this message. Jesus smiling now, not because your life is perfect, not because you solved all your problems, and not because you finally reached the spiritual level you always wanted to attain. He smiles because you chose to hear his voice in a world offering 1,000 other louder and flashier options. This smile isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on your performance, your consistency, or your list of successes. The grace Jesus offers has a characteristic defying all human logic. It doesn't diminish when you err, doesn't cool when you disappear, and doesn't tire when you come back for the 10th time asking the same thing. While the world around evaluates you by what you produce, what you appear to be, and how much you deliver, Jesus looks at you with a smile, seeing who you are before anything you do. This gaze transforms, not from outside in, but from inside out, in a way no external achievement can imitate. Don't give up believing you deserve this smile, because the voice saying you're unworthy of it isn't Jesus' voice. It's the voice of exhaustion, comparison, accumulated shame, and it lies with impressive consistency. Jesus is near those who feel far, visible to those who feel invisible, and present to those who feel forgotten. And speaking of presence, there's something about moments when God seems silent that needs to be said urgently, because maybe you've interpreted this silence in a way not corresponding to reality. God's silence is one of the most disconcerting experiences of spiritual life. Those phases when you pray, wait, pray again, and continue without hearing anything seeming like clear answer. The temptation in these moments is to interpret this silence as absence, as indifference, or as sign your prayers aren't reaching anywhere. But God's silence was never abandonment. It's the sound of one working in dimensions your eyes still can't access, moving invisible pieces on a board going far beyond what you can see now. Think of an iceberg. The visible part is small, but the real structure sustaining it is all below the surface, out of reach of eyes. God's work in your life functions exactly like this. What you see is a minimal fraction of what's really happening. Behind the scenes of your story, connections are being aligned, obstacles are being removed, and the ground for your transformation is being prepared with care no human planning could replicate. It's not coincidence the Bible's greatest miracles were always preceded by periods of apparent silence. The healing you need, the answer you're waiting for, the change you so desire, all this is in process, even if the process isn't yet visible. The grace sustaining you during silence is the same that will make the moment of revelation even more powerful, because what was built in secret has a solidity what was built in haste never has. And when you understand silence is work and not absence, you start resting in a place independent of circumstances, and this rest begins with something much simpler than you imagine. One of the biggest barriers preventing people from approaching Jesus is the belief they need to arrive put together, with perfect faith, right words, clean history, and organized life before deserving divine attention. But this belief is exactly the opposite of what Jesus demonstrated in each encounter he had during his life on earth. He didn't wait for the Samaritan woman to improve before talking with her, didn't wait for Zacchaeus to come down from power before going to his house, and didn't wait for Peter to stop making mistakes before calling him rock. Jesus goes to who is, not to who should be. You don't need perfect faith to be received. You just need an open heart, and you already proved you have that by being here now. The grace Jesus offers isn't a prize for those who arrived perfect. It's a gift for those who arrived honest. And honesty before God doesn't mean having all the answers. It means showing up with questions, with doubts, with exhaustion, and with everything not yet resolved, and trusting that's enough to begin. Being chosen has nothing to do with being most spiritual, most disciplined, or the one who erred least. It has everything to do with being available to be found by Jesus exactly where you are. And he finds people in the most unexpected places, in the middle of crisis, at rock bottom, in the exhaustion of an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The transformation you seek doesn't begin when you become worthy of it. It begins at the exact moment you stop trying to deserve it and simply accept. But there's something about your specific story that needs to be said before we move forward. There's a lie pain tells very convincingly, that the difficult chapter you're living now is the last one, that what didn't work out defines what will, and that your story has already reached the best it could reach. This lie is dangerous because it arrives dressed as realism, as common sense, and as just facing the facts. But it's not reality, it's limited perspective. You're in the middle of the book, not at the end, and judging the plot by the most difficult chapter is like closing a novel on the most tense page and declaring it ended badly. Jesus has a proven track record of transforming stories the world had already given up on. Lazarus was in the tomb 4 days when Jesus arrived, and his own sister had already accepted mourning. The woman with bleeding had exhausted all available medical resources for 12 years before touching the edge of Jesus' garment and being completely healed. It's not coincidence the Bible's most powerful miracles happen precisely in situations seeming most definitively closed, because that's exactly where God's grace has most space to manifest. Don't give up on your story before Jesus has the chance to write the next chapters, because what he still has to put in your narrative will reframe even the most painful parts already written. The healing you need, the restart you desire, the turning point you're waiting for, All this is still to come, and is coming in a way that will surprise even you, who already know your own dreams. And if you still carry the feeling you're unworthy of all this, the next point was written specifically for you. If there's a person thinking this message isn't for them, who went too far, erred too many times, stayed absent too long, know this message was written especially for you. Jesus' grace doesn't have usage limit, doesn't expire after certain number of failures, and doesn't run out after certain types of error. It's renewed every morning, available every afternoon, and abundant every night, including this specific night, including for the specific mistake you still haven't been able to forgive in yourself. The prodigal son in the parable didn't return home because he'd become worthy to return. He returned because he was at his limit and needed help. And the father didn't wait for him to reach the door to evaluate whether he deserved to be received. He ran in his direction while he was still far off, without even having heard the repentant speech. This is the most accurate image existing of what Jesus does when a chosen one decides to return, regardless of how long they stayed away, regardless of what they did while absent, and regardless of how they arrived. Stopping praying, stopping seeking, and stopping believing you deserve to be heard are symptoms of a wound. Jesus' grace has exactly the right remedy to heal. You don't need to prove yourself before approaching. You just need to approach, and proof comes as consequence of the encounter, not as prerequisite for it. The transformation beginning when someone feeling unworthy decides to approach anyway has a depth no other spiritual experience can produce. And something in this direction has already begun in your life, even if you haven't noticed yet. Here's something you maybe aren't seeing yet because you're too close to the situation to have perspective. A change has already begun in your life. Silent, invisible on the outside, but real and irreversible on the inside. The doors seeming permanently closed are being unlocked by hands you don't see. The burdens you carried alone for so long are about to be lightened in a way that will surprise you by the lightness you'll feel. It's not vague hope. It's the pattern of how Jesus operates in the lives of those who chose to keep seeking even without seeing immediate result. The clarity you so needed about a situation, decision, or direction is coming, and it will arrive in a way making sense in a form your own explanations couldn't produce. The healing you asked for in prayer is in process, even if symptoms haven't completely changed yet. The transformation you want to see outside has already begun inside, and the inside always precedes the outside, always has and always will. Don't give up now that the process is already underway. Jesus is too close to your situation for it to continue the way it is much longer. And the grace he poured over you in this waiting season was greater than you realized while in the middle of it. One day you'll look back and see this phase with different eyes, recognizing every detail of divine care present even when it seemed absent. And this day of clarity begins with a very simple step I'll invite you to take now. Surrender into Jesus' hands exactly what's weighing most. Money not arriving, health worrying, relationship not going well, future seeming foggy, family hurting, decisions stuck. Jesus knows each of these worries by name, with all the details you never told anyone, and with understanding going beyond what any human counselor could offer. He doesn't need you to explain everything from the beginning. He was already there when each of these situations began, already knows the weight each carries, and already has in hand what each needs to transform. Surrendering doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist or don't hurt. It means recognizing you've already carried alone long enough, and there's a force available to share this weight infinitely greater than yours. 1 Peter 5 verse 7 says to cast all your anxiety on Jesus, because he cares for you. Not will care, not can care, but cares. Present, active, continuous. He won't start caring after you improve. He already cares now, with you as you are. The transformation happening when you genuinely surrender a worry to Jesus, not as religious protocol, but as real act of trust. is one of the most concrete and verifiable experiences of spiritual life. The weight changes. Not necessarily the circumstance, at least not immediately, but the weight changes. And when weight changes, you think differently, act differently, and see differently. This isn't mysticism. It's grace operating where control was released. And the best way to begin this surrender process is through something very simple we'll do together now. The moment has come to stop just hearing about Jesus and speak directly with him. Because the transformation you seek doesn't begin in theory, it begins in conversation. And this conversation doesn't need to be elaborate, doesn't need religious vocabulary, and doesn't need to happen in special place. It can be now, here, as you are, with the words you have. Jesus is near and is listening. And what he values most isn't the beauty of words, but the honesty of the heart pronouncing them. Pray like this, out loud if you can. Jesus, I come as I am, without pretending everything's okay, without trying to seem more spiritual than I am. I'm tired, I'm waiting, I have doubts I don't even know how to formulate right. But I choose to trust in you now, not because I understand everything, but because I don't want to keep carrying alone what was made to be delivered into your hands. Receive my imperfect surrender and transform what I can't transform. Thank you for being near when I feel far, for seeing me when I feel invisible, and for smiling at me even when I can't smile at myself. The grace this prayer activates doesn't depend on the perfection with which you pronounced it. It depends on the sincerity with which you felt it. Even if your voice trembled, even if you stopped in the middle not knowing how to continue, even if it was more silence than words, it arrived. Every honest prayer arrives, without exception, and produces something you maybe can't see yet, but is already in motion. And this motion has a specific name we'll explore now, because this moment you're living is much bigger than it seems. There's a special category of moments in life. Moments seeming ordinary at the time, but when you look back years later, you recognize as the exact point when everything started changing. An encounter seeming casual, a decision seeming small, a video you almost didn't click on one afternoon. This moment you're living now belongs to this category, and one day you'll look back and see this instant as the beginning of a transformation that changed the course of your story in ways you still can't fully dimension. Turning points rarely arrive announced with fanfare. They arrive discreetly, dressed as simple opportunity, and only reveal their real size when time passes and perspective increases. David didn't know that day caring for sheep would be the day he'd be anointed king. Peter didn't know that morning of failed fishing would be the day Jesus would change his life forever. And you maybe don't know yet the size of what this moment represents, but Jesus is near, and he knows. Don't give up walking in the direction this message pointed, because the turning point you're living now asks for continuity to reveal itself completely. The healing you sought, the grace you received, the surrender you made, and the prayer you pronounced. All this is weaving something new in your story's fabric. Something the chosen one you are will carry far beyond this moment. The transformation beginning at a turning point doesn't end there. It unfolds, grows, and deepens as you keep walking with Jesus day after day. And this walking begins with a simple decision not to treat this moment as just another video watched, but as the real beginning of something that will last. You made it to the end, and Jesus is smiling for that. Not because you're perfect, not because you resolved everything during these minutes, and not because your life completely changed between the beginning and end of this video. He smiles because you chose to stay, chose to listen, and chose to open yourself to something going far beyond content on a screen. So before closing this video and returning to your routine, let me ask you some questions deserving honest answer. What will you do differently starting today with everything you received here? Will you keep interpreting God's silence as absence, or will you start seeing it as work? Will you keep carrying alone what was made to be surrendered, or will you practice real surrender starting now? You learned that stopping matters, and this choice was intentional and divine. You learned Jesus smiles for you not for your performance, but for your availability. You learned God's silence was never absence. It was work happening behind the scenes. You learned you're accepted as you are, without needing perfect faith or right words. You learned your story hasn't ended, that grace reaches those feeling unworthy, and that a change has already begun even if not yet completely visible. You learned to surrender your worries, made an honest prayer, and understood this moment is a real turning point in your story, one you'll look back on someday and recognize as the beginning of everything. Don't let this moment be just another video watched and forgotten on any afternoon. Choose one concrete thing to apply still today. Reread the prayer we made together out loud before sleeping. Write on paper the worries you'll surrender to Jesus now. Or simply decide you won't give up on your story anymore before Jesus finishes writing it. Any step in the right direction is already transformation in motion. If this message touched your heart, help me take it to more people. Subscribe to the channel, activate notification bells to not miss any content, and tell me here in comments what city you're watching this video from. I want to know where this word is reaching, because each chosen one who finds this message and decides not to give up matters. May Jesus cover you with grace, sustain you in the process, and take you to the other side of your healing.